about my own death and the way I would like my family and friends to celebrate my death. I'm very interested in remembering and celebrating in a joyous way. I have not been very happy with traditional funerals and burials for some time. I have long been interested in the environment and living sustainably, and I would also like to die sustainably if that's possible. But when I read about this green burial and then had an opportunity to learn more about it, it makes so much sense to me. We have injected so many chemicals into this world that I'm very concerned about my grandchildren and what consequences they are going to have to pay for our actions. And I think the idea of doing a burial without chemicals is so much more satisfying to me. And I have thought about, talking to my children about this, and I don't think they'll be at all surprised. I'm up in age and don't expect to live forever, so I have my own wishes that I would like to make known to my family, and it would be, I'm looking forward to discussing this with them.
So what can people do if they want to have the option to care for their loved one at home, and if they want to have the option for a green burial?
Right now, the biggest thing is tell somebody about it. Get with yourself and a death care provider or funeral director, whatever you want to call them, and talk about it and see what your options are. The easiest thing to do if you don't have a green cemetery next to you or close to you, use a topless or what they call a bottomless vault and turn it upside down. It still meets cemetery requirements. It's not as green, but there are many shades of green out there. And request that the embalming fluid is either a green fluid, and there's 4 or 5 of them out there right now, or a lower exposure formaldehyde-based fluid. I mean, you can start, and depending on what types of service you want, that will kind of dictate what that death care specialist needs to use.
Or care for the body at home.
Right.
You don't have to use any
You don't have to use
embalming
any.
fluid, and then proceed to burial within a few days.
Absolutely. I see the home funerals and the green burials as really a way of changing social behavior. That if we can change social behavior through death care and help people through a process and also foster some goodwill in my industry, that would be a great thing.
There's a great number of people that want to go back to the earth, and they live their lives that way now by the products they purchase, by the cars they drive, and so on. And this is an alternative that really they didn't have up until now, and now they will have an alternative to natural burial, where they won't have a big cement vault and a big fancy metal casket. Rather, they'll be, in a simple pine box and be placed in the ground, or in a shroud and placed in the ground, and go back to the earth. And really not different than it was done centuries ago, before the Civil War, and when embalming really came into stride, and so that they could preserve people for a period of time. These are people that don't want that preservation. They want to be, they've lived their life naturally and they want to go back to the earth naturally. The natural burial aspect lends itself beautifully to the people that perhaps have chosen cremation in the past because they didn't want to either take up space, they didn't want to overuse the land. Now the natural burial lends itself beautifully to that because they're not using the fossil fuels then to dispose of the body. Rather, they'd be buried in their natural state and go right back to the earth.
In the face of death, which we can't control the choices we make about how the body is cared for. And that can give people a great sense of healing and comfort. To be able to be involved in the process of caring for the body can be very healing for many people.
I think it's one of the most graceful, true things. Talk about greening, talk about returning to tradition, talk about respecting people and not being away from them at that really important time. What a great thing that we couldn't give our mom a happy life, we couldn't give her lots of things, but we gave her a chance to let go of her body and go on to whatever you do, go on to, with respect.
I think the question really is what gives you meaning, and knowing what your choices are, what all your options are, and then finding support for those choices.
It certainly has been a wonderful life, and I feel like it needs to be celebrated.
Building a sense of community, having people come into the home and bring food into the home and have someone that's passed away laying on a couch or laying in front of a window. It's kind of taking a step back in time where communities took care of one another.
I have a good friend who says that birth is as safe as life gets. I feel that death is as real as life gets.